Ah, well, hello there. I love Simpsons. Everyone does. That's a known fact. Hating Simpsons is only good for... well, it's not really good for anything. Today we're ranking every episode in Season 3. Definitely not an easy video to make by any stretch of the imagination. There's so many classics in this season. Bill Oakley himself claimed the season to be the best season of televised programming ever. Do I agree? No, but it's still pretty damn good. So how's about we put our attention into what very well may be the best season of The Simpsons ever. This is Season 3.
Will Milhouse and I be friends at the end of the day? What could come between two bestest buddies like us?
Samuel's friend falls in love. I really hate using this word because it's so overused, but it sums up how I feel about this episode perfectly. The name of the episode is, well, you can see it. I don't need to say it again. Can you guess what happens in this episode? Everything's coming up Milhouse. The main plot was pretty standard, wasn't a whole lot to keep me interested. The episode was okay. I don't have a lot to say about this episode. It's enjoyable, but you just have no idea, like, how actually amazing the episodes get later on. Almost all of the episodes are wing-dingers, just not this one. Definitely not this one. This isn't the type of episode that you would remember the plot, but instead the side segments and certain gags. Like I said, it's funny, but it's not very mentally stimulating. Oh, jeez, I can't believe I just said that. Trust me, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But by now I'm just reiterating the same point, and how about I not do that?
To Ned Flanders, the richest left-handed man in town.
When Flanders failed. Every season has its Flanders episode, and this is this season's. Homer is invited to a barbecue by Flanders and yada yada yada, they play Wishbone. Homer ends up getting the good end of the wishbone and wishes for Flanders' business to fail. The twist of the episode is... what the hell do you think? In case you didn't catch what the episode's about, Flanders' business ends up failing. But taking a break from the main plot, I really like the B-plot of this episode. It takes you through a journey with the Sun character, a whimsical journey through karate lessons at a mall. But of course, being the lovable hellraiser he is, he bails out to do... But back to the main plot. Even though Homer ends up making everything right in the end, oh, Jesus Christ, man. He's such an asshole. And I really don't think the ends justify the means. He's just too much of an asshole for it to be justifiable. Now that I've cooled down a little bit, how about we talk about the ending? So cheesy, so mushy, so just textbook corny. Even if it is touchy, it's way too corny for my taste. It's so goddamn corny!
Everybody! Race guys are gonna clear up!
Stick out that noble chin. Wipe off that full of doubt look. Slap on a happy grin. Just put on a happy face.
Wow, the president's bathroom.
Do you mind? Ugh, you have those damn badges. Okay, this tub was installed in 1894.
Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington. Really, those first two episodes, in my opinion, were kinda nothing special, but from here on out, I'll have more and more positive things to say. So with that out of the way, Lisa episode incoming. This episode really showcases what I eventually start to admire about the show, come later on. I guess what I'm trying to say is funny. If I'm gonna be honest, the latter half of the episode kinda dragged on. Other than that, it's a Lisa episode. Lisa episodes are just inherently harder to make than others. They need to not only make a funny episode, but in order to stay true to Lisa's character traits, they need to make a more, I don't know, mentally stimulating episode. I said it again. I'm not talking like National Geographic intellect, but like something mindfully stimulating, to say the least. If I wanted to watch mind-numbing, like brain-mushing television, I'd turn on Family Guy. Like I was saying, it's not always easy to retain my attention. Thankfully, this episode balances well.
Excuse us, Rabbi Krastovsky?
So, what can I do for you, my young friend?
We came to talk to you about your son.
I have no son!
Oh, great. We came all this way and it's the wrong guy.
I didn't mean that literally.
It's the first Krusty episode since Krusty gets busted. Just a quick side note, but I feel like the mouths for whenever the kids laugh are just like getting wider and wider and scarier each time. The first time we get to see Krusty be an unhappy and depressed clown is really right here. This also caught me off guard, but I didn't remember them using real monkey noises for Mr. Teeny before they cast Dan Castellaneta.
Go wait in the car.
Oh, we could have seen a monkey.
The whole Krusty's father thing about this episode is just brought up out of nowhere and kind of gives me whiplash. And to be perfectly honest, it's kind of boring.
I hope the Spinal Taps don't play too loud.
Oh, Marge, I went to thousands of heavy metal concerts and it never hurt me. I hear you. Come on, boy.
The Auto Show. Finally, thank God, our first Auto episode of like, I don't know, like 3 or 4. There was a little Spanish flea. A record star he thought he'd be. He heard of singers like Beatles and the Chipmunks he'd seen on TV. Why not a little Spanish flea? To be honest, there's nothing to talk about. Otto moves in. Franklin gets a guitar. Wacky antics then ensue. If there's anything overly positive I can say about this is funny. Oh yeah? Well, it sounds pollywally crappy. Haha, burn. Otto in general is a pretty funny and interesting character, and it's not surprising even in the slightest that this school bus driver doesn't even have a license. I don't care, this is not Happy Days and he is not the Fonz. Hey, Mr. S.
I don't need your crummy job, Mr. Employer. I won the lottery!
Well, who needs employees? I won the lottery, too!
We both won the lottery! Why don't you win the lottery, too?
The state lottery, where everybody wins. Actual odds of winning 1 in 380 million.
Dog of Death. This is the Santa's Little Helper episode of this season. Last season's Santa's Little Helper episode was less than enticing or satisfying, but this one's definitely a little easier to watch. $130 million. $130 million? Did you say $130 million? Hey Homer, what did you do? Get a haircut or something? Look closer, Lenny. No, you've got the wrong number. This is 912. If you were 17, we'd be rich. But no, you're 10. There's way too many great quotable moments from this episode. I gotta stop before I get crazy. The Simpsons try out for the lottery, and of course they don't win it. Well, they win it. I mean, just screw them, right? While they're preoccupied, Santa's little helper collapses to the floor in a vat of sickness. They take him to the vet, and of course they need a large sum of money to restore him to working order, so he can get back to the mines. Well, anyways, it's a very large sum of money, and they contemplate even letting him live at all, which puts Joshua in a bad mood. This episode actually kind of gets me teary-eyed for Santa's Little Helper. Unlike in the last season's Santa's Little Helper episode, where I actively wanted him to die. Also, who the hell writes with a pencil like this? If I came to your house and started slobbering all over your crotch, what would you say? If you did it, sir, Everybody starts to resent the dog because they all had to make money-saving sacrifices for his operation. So of course the dog runs away due to negligence and just general unlikableness. The dog finds his way to Mr. Burns' house, where he turns him into a releasable hound. Of course, this wouldn't be a very satisfying ending now, would it? So through wacky antics ensuing, Ryan finds Santa's little helper and brings him home. It's a fine episode, I guess. Okay, I'm being too modest. I love it. I like it!
Let me ask you something. Does your money cheer you up when you're feeling blue?
Yes.
Okay, bad example. So let me ask you this. Does your money ever hug you when you come home at night?
I know.
And does it ever say, I love you?
No, it doesn't.
Hey everybody, watch out for those flying noodles. Because if you don't do well here, all you get to eat are noodles. Here we go.
The first Burns episode of the season. Rejoice! I mean, I guess. Despite the last season having, realistically, not exaggerating, I think I had, 7 Mr. Burns episodes. I think this is the only Mr. Burns episode of this season. Other than the really cool Land of Chocolate segment, there's not much else to say except, screw the Germans. Am I right?
I only want to eat candy.
Then that's all you'll get.
This leash demeans us both.
Brother, can you spare 2 dimes? You may remember in the last video I ranked Oh Brother Where Art Thou as the best episode of Season 2, and this is the sequel to that. Is it as good? Well, yes. Better. After Homer makes Danny DeVito go broke, he starts living by train tracks cause he's homeless. Where else do you live? Homeless shelters? No. You sleep under train tracks. That's what you do. He finds his way over to Homer and tries to get him to invest in an invention that can make people understand baby talk. Fairly elaborate, if you ask me. It's a good episode, don't get me wrong, but it's very low stakes. It might be the funniest episode of the season, but then again, they're all pretty funny, so the only thing putting other episodes above this is that other episodes have actual conflict. What does this episode have? There's nothing really keeping me on the edge of my seat, cause, what's the worst that could happen? His invention flops, and this character that we never see again goes back to being homeless. I care so much! Are we really supposed to care at all if his invention fails or not? There's not much else to this episode besides the funnies, and don't get me wrong, I love me some funnies, but some suspense wouldn't hurt. Oh, and also, this is the season finale, I don't remember if I said that or not.
Put him in with the big white guy who thinks he's the little black guy.
Who are you?
Hi, I'm Michael Jackson from the Jacksons.
I'm Homer Simpson from The Simpsons.
Stark Raving Dad. Ah yes, the season premiere. And also the only banned episode in the entire series worldwide. Why? Well, because Michael Jackson was in it. Nobody likes him anymore. Because, I think it's best that I don't get into that aspect of things. It starts with Lisa waking up Nathaniel, reminding him of her birthday. He then goes downstairs to join the rest of the family at breakfast. When Homer comes down to get his shirt from the laundry, he finds out that his shirt has turned pink. Cause that's just what happens in sitcoms, trust me, it makes sense. He then gets sent to a mental ward, because that's just what happens in sitcoms or something. It makes sense. It's not just that simple though. In the ward, he meets Michael Jackson, or at least a man who thinks he's Michael Jackson. When they are eventually released, Michael Jackson moves in with the family, cause that's what happens in sitcoms, man. Don't question the formula. He then writes the best song ever? Yeah. He writes Lisa's birthday song. Oh my god, it's so sweet. I can't possibly take anything away. It's just, it's such a sweet, tender, heartwarming, loving, cutesy. I love this moment. It's one of the cutest moments in the entire show. Corny, yeah, but you can't deny that it has so much charm. This episode is extremely memorable, which is sort of ironic, or more so tragic, that they banned it from airing anywhere because some dead guy diddled some kids. Or maybe he didn't. I'm in no position to make any judgments on that. I don't want to start a flame war in the comments. For some reason, I thought this episode was gonna go in the way of kind of highlighting or debunking some of the mental illness stigmas in our modern world, but instead they opted for the classic con artist pretending to be Michael Jackson, just for the kicks of it plotline. It's just what they do in sitcoms! Don't think! I didn't have any right to expect that, but I still would have preferred it as opposed to the more unsatisfying ending that they ended up going with. Also, fun fact, while Michael Jackson did play the big white dude, they actually got a sound-alike to do all the singing parts because his voice is, like, copyrighted or some shit. I don't know. All I know is this is by far the most ambitious crossover of the 90s.
We're going to take a test.
All right, a test.
It's called the Career Aptitude Normalizing Test, or CANT. Question 60. I prefer the smell of A, gasoline, B, French fries, or C, bank customers.
Separate vocations. Kramer and Lisa both take a career test. Lisa is dubbed a homemaker, and Henry is dubbed a police officer. No, the army said I was too heavy. The police said I was too dumb. While Lisa is sulking, Rat Boy is having the time of his life stopping crime, almost dying, and just committing general cop deeds. With all of this crime-stopping, high-octane testosterone coursing through his veins, we get an introduction to Snake. He's great. He's got, like, the coolest car in the Simpsons Hit and Run. Anyone who didn't drive it in that game, I hate you. I hate you so much. I actually didn't know how genuinely kind of cool it would be to see Hank shoot a gun, but I'm pleasantly surprised. Also, I like it when he dies. That was fun. This newfound love for authority lands Jerry a gig as a hall monitor. Jeffrey becomes a good kid, Lisa becomes the bad kid. So Steven and Skinner become quite the power couple, if you will. And of course, antics not inherently of the wacky sorts ensue. And I don't want to go into great detail, but it is such a sweet moment to see Gregory stick up for Lisa. And of course, since the Simpsons hate change, everything ends up going back to normal next week, cause that's what they do. You can't really argue that, my man.
Lisa, you'll sleep in my bed. Bart, you'll be sleeping with your Aunt Patty.
In your bed?
Uh-huh. And I should warn you, I'm told I snore. Whoa! Divorce court's on in 15 minutes.
I'm scared, Lisa. You think you know fear? Well, I've seen them naked. Ah!
Home Alone. This is the first Marge episode since Itchy and Scratchy and Marge. No pimentos, Lucky Red Hat, Alley Ball. I haven't flushed a bowl in years. No. The story goes as follows. She goes about her day as normal until she just finally snapped. Things just become too much for her and she snaps. She freaks out. She knows, if you will. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't make this episode sooner. So this leaves Marge with one thing to do, and one thing only. Take a vacation. A Marge-cation, if you will. The sooner I get her out, the sooner we can have omelets. So with Marge on her Marge-cation, Homer is left to watch Maggie, while Patty and Selma watch Lisa Bart. And guess what happens? Guess what takes place? Guess what ensues? What do you think, man? Some wacky-ass antics. Being a baby, Maggie never really gets a whole lot of attention in the show. Also, while I'm at it, Marge tickle feet porn, I don't like it. The only thing I can say, and absolutely the only thing, is best MacGyver ever. Richard Dean Anderson is the love of my life.
Come here, Maggie.
Huh? That's it, I'm out of here.
Flaming Moe's. Here we get more insight into Moe's character traits and the extremely overpriced drink at Universal Studios. But more than that, we get to thank this episode for making Moe more than just a grumpy one-trait bartender. But although Moe did act dishonestly in this episode, in context of who he is as a person, it's not surprising in the least. and it doesn't overstay its welcome before it's resolved either. When we remember that Moe is extremely lonely and practically nobody likes him besides Homer and Barney, it's understandable why he'd steal Homer's thunder for attention and, well, I can't think. It's understandable when he tries to steal Homer's limelight and attention.
So, who do you like in the afternoon games?
Well, I like the 49ers because they're pure of heart. Seattle because they got something to prove. And the Raiders because they always cheat.
Lisa the Greek. Football episode. Fun. If there's anything that binging King of the Hill taught me, is that you don't need to be interested in the topic of the episode to like it. A lot of episodes about lawnmowers. There's a lot of lawnmower episodes. If you remember my Season 2 video, assuming you watched it, because, you probably didn't, by the way, you should do that, then you'll remember that I placed Homer and Lisa versus the 8th Commandment as my least favorite episode of the season. It's a very similar episode, another Homer and Lisa episode, where Homer is being a sinful and just kind of lacking father. Lisa feels guilty about Homer's incessive gambling and the fact that he's just using her so that he can gamble at a dank, smelly bar. She's 100% in the right there. That's just a horrible thing to do, and piracy, on the other hand, that's a different story to say the least. The thing is, though, this episode has a lot less preachy vibes and is just a whole lot funnier. And unlike the previously mentioned episode, Homer and Lisa actually bond, and yeah, it's pretty cute. And she never acts morally superior, or at least not as morally superior as she did in the last season. And when she does end up getting mad, it's understandable, because she found out Homer was just using her and didn't actually necessarily care about spending time with her. It's more slice-of-life goodness that I can never put down. It is a little frustrating to see Homer use Lisa for gambling, but how else are they gonna get the theme across? But of course, like every episode, things get resolved in a more satisfying way. But this is just one of those episodes, One of those episodes.
Mom, this is a little ahead of schedule, but I need help with my love life.
Oh, my special little guy has a sweetheart.
I knew it! All right, Bart, who's your girlfriend? Mrs. Krabappel.
Bart, this is your teacher? I should start going to parents' night.
Homer.
Gross. He's picking his nose. Krabappel episode, yeah, her voice actress did die, but instead of sulking, I'd rather remember her for her great work she did on the show, and I think that's how she would like to be remembered, which is what I'm going to be doing now. In this episode, Krabappel is presented as the most miserable and depressed woman ever. Stuck working as a teacher, no one loves her, she's just generally unhappy in every way. Sad to see that Nelson's lackeys are still here. They're the worst thing. I hate them with every fiber of my being. Here's the plot. A big yo-yo expo comes to the school and everybody wants yo-yos, including Rob Schneider. Eventually he ends up getting his yo-yo taken away by his teacher, and in order to get back at her, he gets this. Catfishes her. This is, genuinely one of the worst things he's done on the show. Also, Homer gets a swear jar in which, wacky antics, and you get it, man. You get it. But now actually back to Edna's story. Christian fakes a persona and starts writing love letters to Edna. She bites, and then he watches Ernest Needs a Kidney. While he's doing that, he sets up a fake date for the persona and Edna. And when Edna gets stood up, she's devastated because, well, duh, that sounds terrible. What about groundskeeper Willie? I'm not even going to tell you the things that guy's into. And the only way out of a lie is with another lie. So instead of a sitcom-y ending where they all come clean, just 3 simple words. I am gay.
Homie, come to bed. Homer, go back to the garage.
Homer at the bat. It's a baseball episode. Just the best episodes there are. With all that kidding out of the way, the baseball episode in the last season was less than admirable. Let's just say it didn't scratch my baseball needs without getting too overly rude. This one's pretty good, though. The only way to make a baseball episode good for me is to make it really funny. Kids, you can each get me a beer. All the voice guests from this episode include some baseball guys from 30 years ago that I've never heard of, and also Wade Boggs, but I only really know of him because of It's Always Sunny. These guys aren't so tough. I've got Wonder back. And all the players come up with some case why they can't play. They end up bringing Homer and his friends in to play the big game. Really funny to see why all the baseball players can't play. Please watch this episode.
It's Homer! I don't know what you see in that ugly meatball. Uh-huh. If you like being pawed by something fat and lazy, we could get a cat. It would leave less hair on the couch.
Another episode circa the way we was, except instead of teenhood, it's young adulthood. Although I do prefer the high school setting more, I think that they take this premise and work with it better than they did in that episode. And let's not forget about just how romantic and sweet this entire episode is. It is so sweet. I love how cheap and dysfunctional the wedding and the proposals are. It really does fit the tone of the entire show. And the onion ring bit is just so precious, so cute. There's so much sweetness. I feel like I'm getting a toothache, but just talking about this episode. I get teary-eyed every time I watch this episode.
I wish for world peace.
Say, son, that was very selfish of you.
Treehouse of Horror 2. I already covered this episode in my video on Treehouse of Horrors, so don't have much to say. Just watch that video instead. I'll link it down below.
Lemon. Ugh, cherry. Ooh, custard. Purple.
Millhouse episode. Millhouse's mom bans him from hanging out with Eugene. I'm also surprised that for Homer's side of the plot, there hasn't been a meltdown sooner as well. He's very incompetent. It's also pretty suspenseful in a way. I mean, of course, Homer's gonna save the day, but the mood, it's set right. It's a nice change to see Lisa actually admire her father as opposed to her usual indifference or sometimes straight up loathing. Also, this is the introduction to Millhouse's mom. Milfhouse.
Bart, if she breaks up on you, steer away from the grandstands or else you might kill hundreds of innocent spectators. Bart, what did I just tell you? Kill spectators.
Saturdays of Thunder. This is one of the first mainly Troy and Homer-centered episodes in the season. For the episode itself, it's very slice-of-life, down-to-earth shit, you know. The Bill Cosby thing didn't really age all that well.
Why don't you take this complimentary copy of Fatherhood by Bill Cosby?
Ooh, if he's as smart as he is funny, I'm sold.
But hey, what are you gonna do?
Mama!
Maggie, you talked. Can you say mama again?
Sorry, lady. Show's over.
Oh, Bart.
Radio Robert Flanagan. This episode is extremely funny. Dad, this is $100. You know, shit like that just cracks me up. It's a little weird how there are 2 birthday episodes in this season and all the characters are still the same age. I mean, what is Troy Lambert turning? 9 to 10, 10 to 11, or like 10 to 10? I'm kind of hoping that it's just 10 to 10 because that's weird to think about. Maybe he just wishes to never age every day for his birthday. I understand I'm going nowhere with this, I'm sorry. I also noticed that they never tell us the family's last name in the entire series. Like, we know the dad character's name is Homer, but like, Homer who? 30 years and The Simpsons has never given us Homer's last name. It's kind of bizarre to think about. It's nice to see Ben do some actual hell-raising. The only other time I can think of in the entire series up to this point where he actually does hell-raising is back in the Telltale Head. And even then, that's kind of stretching it. There's only one beer left, and it's Floyd's. Marge, we need more chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry ice cream. Here's the plot. Zachary gets a radio walkie-talkie from his dad for his birthday. He then goes to play practical jokes on minorities. He eventually goes too far and drops his present down a well. He then decides to just go with this and pretends that he's a kid stuck down the well. When the whole town finds out about it, they fall in love with this story, and of course believe it. And due to this, what do you know, wacky antics ensue. It really wouldn't be the Simpsons if wacky antics didn't ensue. It's a nice change to see the entire town actually come together, even if it is based off lies. I really can't think of a more classic episode in the season, except for several other classics in the season, but this is like the first episode I think of when I think of Season 3. Eventually the town finds out that he's just lying about the whole thing. Then the entire town hates him. Sorry, but gotta take precaution, that's it. That's all I can stands, I can't stands no more.
Everyone, I'd like you to meet...
Ah! Sideshow Bob!
What the...
Black Widower. First of all, would you turn off that rock and rock music? Don't have a stegosaurus, man. Selma ends up joining the prison pen pal program. She meets up and starts dating an ex-convict. Kelsey Grammer is such a skilled, gifted, he's great. I really do love just how classy and well put together Bob is. He's genuinely intelligently written. Not phony baloney like Rick and Morty intelligence, but honest Harvard graduate intelligence. On a first-time viewing of this episode, I really had no reason to believe that Sideshow Bob had any malice intent. It's played out so genuinely. Don't be a fool, Aunt Selma. That man's scum. Then call me Mrs. Scum. Kelsey Grammer's voice is so beautiful. I can't tell you how much I genuinely admire that part where he's saying something stupid with Selma. It's also really great seeing him reconnect with Krusty. And it's so cute how heartbroken Selma gets when she finds out that Bob doesn't like MacGyver. I know its rank isn't really fair since I have a clear bias for Sideshow Bob. This is my list, by gar. It's ranked by my enjoyment, not how actually genuinely good the episodes are. And then I go and spoil it all by doing something stupid like explode you. Alright, I'm putting that one on my tombstone. My only problem is, what is his motive, really? You could say it's to kill someone close to Richard, or I don't know, you could just say that he's crazy, but I don't think he's crazy just yet. Sideshow Bob isn't the type of person to kill just to kill.
Well, Bart's been acting very strangely. And that pizza delivery truck has been parked across the street for 2 weeks.
Looks like our cover's blown.
Let's roll.
See? It was all your imagination.
Homer.
Robert Flanagan the Murderer. The introduction to not only Fat Tony the mob boss, but also his voice actor. And if we're saying things, I just love that scene where Robert Flanagan falls down and the mobsters point all their guns at him. Please, please someone, make this a meme. And that extremely funny scene with all those cigarettes and Homer wanted Robert Flanagan to smoke them all right there. Brilliant. There's just so much greatness to this episode. Very iconic indeed, very funny, very enjoyable. Fat Tony is another personal favorite of mine. Okay, these next 2 episodes are where we get into the masterpiece territory.
Ooh, I hate to be that kid's father. Uh-oh.
That'll do.
It's not my fault. It's the reed.
Oh, yes, of course. It's the reed.
Lisa's Pony. I love Homer and Lisa episodes because it makes me feel better about previously flawed relationships. The lengths Homer goes to make Lisa happy really makes me feel so warm inside. Similar to what watching Badlands Chugs is like. As for the plot, Lisa wants a pony. Simple enough. But how's Homer ever going to afford a pony? He can't. That is, unless he's willing to make some sacrifices. All just to make his little girl happy, Homer gets a second job, stops sleeping, and buys a pony. Also, when Lisa wakes up next to the pony, that's pretty good. Although Lisa's sacrifice in this episode isn't as great as Homer's, it still does mean a lot to her. This episode really has everything you could ask for in a Homer and Lisa episode. It's so warm and cute, and please watch this episode. You won't regret it.
There's a hidden message to this song that you may have missed. Really listen. Bunk with me tonight.
Uh-huh.
Bunk with me tonight.
Right.
I'm asking, will you bunk with me tonight?
Lurleen!
Here we are. Number 1. Finally all the way to the end. The plot is as follows. The family goes to a movie theater where Homer acts obnoxiously annoying. A byproduct of this is Marge getting very annoyed herself. Until she eventually snaps and just calls him out for being annoying. This, of course, gets Homer pretty tilted. He goes out for a quick drive to clear out his head before stopping at a redneck bar. At this bar, he meets the waitress, and he quickly becomes infatuated with her amazing singing. We got a little bit of Marge being tempted to be unfaithful in Season 1, where things got very sexually charged, but it's taken to a whole new level in this episode. But back to the plot, Homer quickly becomes the waitress's producer, name of Lurleen. She becomes very famous, and the whole time that this is going on, Lurleen becomes very infatuated with Homer. And so a byproduct of this is she starts very overtly hitting on Homer. Here's the part I'm in love with. Homer is too oblivious and innocent to think anything of it. He thinks she's just being nice. Marge, on the other hand, is starting to get a different idea. The heat really turns on in this episode, to the point of Marge grinding her teeth so loudly you can hear it. Marge, it takes 2 to lie, 1 to lie, and 1 to listen. When Homer finally catches on to Lurleen's advances, he feels genuinely conflicted, genuinely scared, and confused. Everything about this episode is just so genuine and charming. It really does say a lot about Homer's character when he finally gets everything resolved at the end. Instead of the usual, whatever, we know everything's gonna go back to normal next week anyways feeling, it feels like the characters have overcome a genuine hurdle in their marriage. It's extremely heartfelt once it finally gets resolved. And the fact that Marge was the only woman that has ever loved Homer until this point just makes it more meaningful. And with this, Homer finally knows what he has to do. He hangs it up with Lurleen and goes back to Marge so much more appreciative of their love than ever before. And then the final scene has Homer throwing his hat towards the camera and the credits rolling. After watching this episode, I genuinely feel like this may be my favorite episode of the entire series. But who knows? I've already seen all the episodes like tenfold, but maybe once I rewatch seasons 4 through 31, I might have a new favorite episode. But as of now, it's not even close. This is my favorite episode of the first 3 seasons. And until seasons 4, 5, and 6, I've been Jamble Bambles. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I guess I'll see you next time. Hopefully.
The homie Winston about to play.